After years of doing the most to let the Prime Minister know that he's not welcome in Alberta, Justin Trudeau has finally taken the cue. The Prime Minister's office announced this week that he would not be attending the Calgary Stampede for the first time. Some pundits discuss the importance of the Calgary Stampede as a must-do for politicians of all political stripes. Still others muse that the Prime Minister is weighing his political future and doesn't want to give the appearance of campaigning. Experts agree that the Prime Minister won't show his face at Stampede again until he learns how to flip a pancake. And by experts, I mean myself, speaking to you right now. But the truth is, none of that really matters. Politically speaking, Trudeau is a dead man walking. And I, for one, will breathe a little easier this year, knowing that the stench of his idiocy and corruption is thousands of kilometers away from our clean prairie plains and fresh mountain air. I'm Rachel Parker, and this is the Alberta Roundup. Okay, everyone, and I just wanted to start by letting you know that yes, I have changed my name. My byline will now be appearing as Rachel Parker. I basically did this because I had initially planned to keep Rachel Emanuel as my pen name, if you will, and I honestly just really didn't like going by two names. I found I was giving different names everywhere I would go. I would show up for an appointment, and I wasn't sure what name I had given. I have two different emails, and it was just very confusing for me. As well as most of you know, I do have a son, and I just really wanted to have the same name as my family. I felt like that was important. So yes, my byline will be appearing as Rachel Parker moving forward. You might hear this announcement a few more times. I'll probably just, give a little explainer. Not everyone catches every episode, and I don't want to cause any confusion. So apologies if you hear me give this little explainer a few more times. The good news for all of you is that I can't use my AI theme song right now. I know that a lot of you still really don't like it, so I'm going to have to figure something out. But for today, you didn't have to hear the AI song, but don't get your hopes up too much. It might be back in a different form. We'll see what we can do for you guys. But for now, and I hope you enjoyed the break this week for those of you who really seem to dislike that song. Okay, everyone, and now moving into our first topic here, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau will not be attending the Calgary Stampede this year. The 10-day rodeo is typically considered a must-do for all politicians, and Trudeau hasn't missed a single Calgary Stampede since he's been Prime Minister, except for the years of COVID-19 during 2020 and 2021. The Prime Minister's office did not give an immediate explanation for his absence this year. However, they did announce that he would be traveling to Washington, D.C. to participate in this year's NATO summit, and that will take place from July 11 to July 10. Obviously, the Calgary Stampede has already kicked off. It begins at the beginning of July, so there was lots of time for him to attend the event. He obviously just doesn't want to go. He's not well liked in Alberta. He receives a lot of heckling when he comes. Lots of crowds show up. Many more people show up to protest him than they do to support him. So it's no surprise that he just wasn't up for it this year, considering his recent and embarrassing election loss in Toronto, where the Liberals lost a seat. Still, this is how the CBC explained the Prime Minister's presence at the Calgary Stampede last year. They wrote, quote, "Last year, crowds jockeyed for selfies as Trudeau made his way through the Stampede grounds." I don't know about you guys, I remember things a little differently. People jockeying for selfies. Let me just give you guys a little refresher in case you forgot what Trudeau's last Calgary Stampede appearance looked like.
So many people understand here, but so many happy people here. I'm glad to hear that my son's here as well. And I know you're lots of you out here with families as well. This is a moment to gather and to celebrate being able to gather once again.
Of course, there's no reference to the heckling that Trudeau experienced at the Stampede, and truly that he experiences every time he comes to Alberta. You guys might remember a few months ago he came, and the Prime Minister's office did the absolute most to keep that visit and the location of that visit on lockdown. They are so nervous when he comes here. They don't tell anyone where the meetings are going to be held. They don't want any crowd showing up. Myself and the counter signal editor and chief, Cian Bexty, showed up outside the hotel to ask questions. questions. We were told we weren't allowed to wait in the hotel to see him. We were told that we were not allowed to wait outside the hotel to ask him a question. We were not allowed to ask him a question at the press conference that he held at the university, and we were asked to leave those grounds as well. We weren't even allowed to wait outside of the door to ask him a question. So, the Prime Minister is very afraid of Albertans. He's very afraid of Conservatives. And I think the thing that was most insulting to me about that last event is that not only am I a journalist and I have a right to be in these rooms asking politicians questions, I have a very large audience of people who are interested in what I have to say and also want to hear the answers to the questions that I want to ask. But in addition to that, I'm actually an Albertan. I live in Calgary, and so I wasn't even allowed to ask the Prime Minister questions when he came to the city that I live in. Just pretty absurd if you think about it, the censorship that we're facing from the very top. But back to the story here about the Calgary Stampede. The CBC continued. Trudeau also flipped pancakes at a breakfast hosted by Calgary MP George Chahal, one of 2 Liberals elected in Alberta. Chahal is hosting a pancake breakfast again this year, but Trudeau won't be there. I mean, come on, CBC. How can you talk about Trudeau flipping pancakes and not mention that he doesn't know how to flip a pancake? Even if Chahal was hosting a pancake breakfast, there's almost no chance that Trudeau would be there flipping pancakes. And if he did, we know they'd be the ones that were already fully cooked to avoid anything going wrong. Let's just play this clip from last year. This is truly hilarious.
There's no pressure. There we go.
Golden brown.
There we go.
Here's what the Conservative Party of Canada had to say. A spokesperson for Pierre Poilievre said the news that Trudeau won't be attending must come as a welcome relief for Alberta Liberal and NDP MPs who would prefer he stay in hiding. In a statement, the Conservative Party said, quote, having just been rejected in one of the safest Liberal ridings in downtown Toronto, it's hard to imagine that Canadians will miss Justin Trudeau all too much at Stampede. And that's all true enough. The relief really is for us Albertans who actually just don't want to see him. We don't want to see him at Stampede. And I think we're all kind of hoping with our fingers crossed that this is the end of his political life. It certainly looks like the signs are there. The writing is on the wall. Trudeau is on his way out, and I don't think he's going to show his face at Stampede ever again. He obviously doesn't like coming here. So who knows, last year might truly have been his last ever Calgary Stampede, and he certainly went out with a bang. Okay, moving on to our next story here. I think you guys are really going to like this one. Naheed Nenshi's Alberta NDP is trailing the United Conservative Party by 14 points, according to a new poll. It's true that the Alberta NDP elected Naheed Nenshi in a decisive victory contest last month. He won on the first ballot, but it seems that the rest of the province is not so convinced in Naheed Nenshi's ability to lead Alberta. A new Abacus data poll that surveyed voting age Albertans in the days after Naheed Nenshi won the leadership contest found that he is trailing the United Conservative Party by 14 points. 54% of decided voters said they would choose the UCP and if election were held today, and another 40% said they would vote for the Alberta NDP, and 6% said they would choose another party. Now let's take a look at the breakdown of these numbers. The UCP holds a 34-point lead over the Alberta NDP outside of Edmonton and Calgary. So that's a massive lead. The Alberta NDP has no support outside of Edmonton and Calgary. That's going to be a problem for them in days to come. But even in Edmonton, where the UCP won no seats in the last election, the Alberta NDP are actually just 2 points ahead of the UCP right now. UCP caucus whip Shane Getson said that Albertans recognize the work their government is doing to make life better for them. And since the 2023 general election, he said the UCP caucus has created jobs, paid down debt, and grown the Heritage Fund. In a statement to True North, Getson said, quote, Albertans also have no interest in going back to the NDP's radical ideas and job-killing policies. A change in NDP leadership won't change that. Now, Nenshi has been able to shore up support in Calgary, where he served as the mayor from 2010 to 2021. The Alberta NDP trailed the UCP there by just 4 points, and that's down from 8 points in March. So he is able to close that gap in Calgary, but there's going to be big problems for the Alberta NDP if he is not able to expand his support across the province and especially in Edmonton. The survey also shows that Nenshi's proposal to separate the Alberta NDP from the federal branch appears to be a popular one in Alberta. We covered this pretty extensively last week. During the campaign, Nenshi floated the idea of divorcing the Alberta NDP from the federal party. He says it doesn't seem to make sense that they're associated, and he hears that from the membership everywhere he goes. People are talking about it might be time to leave the federal party. Makes sense to me. Jagmeet Singh, very unpopular. The federal NDP just doing a terrible job. They are a horrible party, really ineffective in every sense of the word. And then immediately after winning the leadership contest, Nenshi told reporters that he wanted to put that question to the membership as soon as possible because it is such a hot topic within the party right now. Now, when asked about this possible separation from Abacus data, the poll found that 49% of Albertans said they supported it, compared to just 21% who oppose the Alberta NDP splitting from the federal party. And when we're looking at Alberta NDP supporters specifically, 49% said they support the split, as did 43% of federal NDP supporters. So I think the membership within the party recognizes that this is really a branding and a marketing issue for them. The UCP and Alberta Premier Danielle Smith has used this fact to attack the Alberta NDP rather effectively. So that's been a big problem for the Alberta NDP. It seems pretty self-explanatory to me that Nenshi would be looking to rectify that branding and that marketing issue. Okay, guys, moving into our controversy of the week. This is going to kill you. Calgary has unveiled a new logo, and it's even worse than you can possibly imagine. We are certainly living in the era of ugly and depressing art. Take a look at this new logo. It just seems to be a random assortment of shapes forming a C. And it's a terrible attempt to advertise the city's new and really unoriginal new slogan. The new slogan dubs Calgary as the Blue Sky City. And I say that's unoriginal because the slogan is already being used in neighboring provinces and states. Saskatchewan's slogan is Land of the Living Skies, and Montana's slogan is Big Sky Country. So we couldn't have found something less original. And when you consider the fact that Calgary's slogan used to be part of the energy, that speaks to Alberta's unique interests far more than Blue Sky City, and I think speaks to Alberta's economy. We're a very rich province because of our energy. I think that's something to celebrate. But of course, now in the day and age of wokeness, they wanted to get rid of any reference to energy, the evil energy that allows us all to live and to have a really high quality of life. So if you thought it couldn't get worse, you were wrong. To date, the city of Calgary has spent $1.7 million on the rebranding efforts. To date, that's going to be important. Remember that number. According to the city's website, this funding went to research and engagement with residents, businesses, and visitors through surveys, focus groups, and workshops. The development of brand assets for community partners, such as photography and videography, the creation of the visual identity, including a toolkit and storytelling playbook, as well as promotional materials for upcoming community events. I don't understand why they need to have focus groups to come up with a new name for the city and a new logo. It's just an unbelievable amount of effort that went into producing something so crappy. So these costs are actually expected to balloon to closer to $5 million with all the advertising and rebranding exercises that they have planned. And if you dig into this further, it becomes immediately obvious that this was all part of some woke exercise. That's really what this is. Here's the evidence for that. Brad Perry, the president and CEO of Calgary Economic Development, as well as the CEO of Opportunity Calgary Investment Fund, said, quote, "Calgary's story doesn't belong to any one group. It belongs to all Calgarians, and it's a story about our collective voices that come together to tell a larger story about who we are as a city. That's why we intentionally engaged with all of our communities to unearth a story that we hope reflects the diversity of Calgarians and draws people to our city to visit, build a life, or build a business." Just going to go ahead and let you guys know right now that you failed. You didn't manage to include all voices. I certainly don't feel included in this. I think that the slogan is stupid. I think that the logo is ugly. I think you probably should have just left things as they were and done a better job branding the perfectly good slogan that you already had. So, you failed. You wasted $5 million on this. And I think, as I mentioned before, I'm feeling really disheartened in Calgary. The city is so mismanaged. They can't even seem to deliver basic services like water to its residents. And now this is just sign for me. Maybe it is time for me to take my business somewhere else, pay taxes to somewhere where they're not going to be wasted in such a stupid and inefficient way. It does get worse. It does get worse. I mentioned before that the city had to have focus groups to design a new slogan. So the city said that 3 truths emerged during these focus groups. The first is that Calgary is a place of unexpected possibilities. Nothing original about that. Everyone says that. Every brand says that, oh, come to our coffee shop. It's full of unexpected possibilities. It really doesn't mean anything. Of course, there's limitations in life. Everyone has limitations. I have limitations. hands. It's sort of like telling your kid they can do anything or they can be anything. It's actually not true. Everyone has a certain set of skills. You'll probably be more likely to excel in life if you lean into your existing skills and try to hone those things, as opposed to, it'd be like me trying to be a mathematician. It's just never going to happen. I really struggle with numbers. I'm probably dyslexic, but it doesn't matter. Not something I'd ever be able to do. I recognize that about myself. I leaned into the writing field, and now I've expanded that to include podcasting, but writing is something I've always been much more natural at and enjoyed. And, you know, like I have learned some new skills in video podcasting, but I would never be able to be a mathematician, and my parents knew that, and they didn't encourage me in that field. So a place of unexpected possibilities, that sort of slogan, it just annoys me. I think it's really dumb. They also said, number 2, we have more sunny days than any other major city in Canada. All right, you know, fair enough. I'm not going to take issue with that too much. I don't know if that's been my experience in Calgary. Every time I looked up, there's little white lines all over the sky from those planes. They seem to be up there all the time. And finally, number 3, we all live under the same blue skies. And then the explanation for this is really just quite stomach-churning. The city wrote, quote, "The sky belongs to all of us equally. When the sky looks down on us, it cannot differentiate between ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, or any other facets of our being. To the sky, we are all equal." You know, the reason the sky is not differentiating between all these things is because the sky is an inanimate object. It's not a living being. It's not looking down at us and thinking anything about us. The biggest criticism I actually have is that I'm not even really sure what the logo is. So take a look at this picture here. We have a variety of C's with different patterns and different colors. Which one is actually the logo? In order to have successful branding, you should be able to think of immediately what the branding and what the slogan is. So for example, with the Alberta Roundup, you guys know what my show name is. If I came to you every week and some week I called it the Alberta Rope Up or the Alberta Report, you would have brand confusion. You would wonder, what's the name of that show again? I don't remember what it's called. That would be a problem for me and for people who are trying to find my show. And even now, I'm changing my name. You know, I've changed my name to Rachel Parker. I'm going to have to be very clear about that in my episode so that I don't have a branding problem. People are going to go and they're going to try and find my work and they're going to say, don't see anything recent from Rachel Emmanuel. I wonder what happened there. So it's going to be important for me to clearly explain to people over the next coming weeks that I've changed my name. Please look for my byline under the name Rachel Parker. You know, I'm going to have to give a couple announcements about that because I want people to know who I am. I want them to know what my show is named, and I want them to easily be able to find my work. The city of Calgary has failed here. They don't even have one clear logo. Why couldn't they have just picked one of these C shapes with the color? Instead, they had to use all these different C's. Looking at this, I'm just confused about what the logo actually is. They spent millions of dollars on something, and it's unclear to me now what the logo is, what the city of Calgary's logo is. So all around a stupid and failed exercise is just depressing to me. And again, reiterate, I just don't think Calgary is the place for me. And finally, you guys, moving into what we're watching in the weeks to come, we are back in Calgary again. The city of Calgary is now saying that indoor water reductions can be eased as the repaired feeder main is now operating at 50% capacity. Wow. Finally, it's been absolute weeks. Here's Mayor Gondek on Thursday.
Now, I want you to remember that we are still under stage 4 outdoor water restrictions, and we are still under the fire ban. And once the water services team says that the water system is healthy enough, we will move from those stage 4 restrictions down to stage 3.
Now, the city is saying to help our system adapt, please be mindful of your water use for the first few days. If you have been waiting to catch up on laundry or other activities, please space it out. So this, I just really didn't understand. They posted this image on X. Who is doing these images over at the city of Calgary? They have a photo of a washing machine. They have a photo of a shower, of a toilet, and a dishwasher. So no explanation as to what this means. I barely even understood it myself, and I cover this for a living. So let's take a look at some of the comments underneath this post because they were very funny. So one user said, "What does ease back mean? So I can take 6 minutes in the shower instead of 5? Another user said, "I want to fire you as soon as possible. You and me both." And finally, I told you guys I have a very immature sense of humor, so bear with me. User Maple Zerop said, "Oh, thank you so much for letting me flush the toilet after I can't even finish it. After the bowl filled up." I'm sorry. It's just the situation in Calgary is just too ridiculous. I'll try that again from the beginning. "Oh, thank you so much for letting me flush the toilet after the bowl filled up. Okay, here we go. I'm going to get through this, you guys. After the bowl filled up, I was forced to use the tub as an overflow. But now I will start flushing again, which is so true. Like, the city's just like, just don't flush your toilet as often, I guess. It's like, what an unbelievable recommendation. We're basically just being asked to live like third world countries. I know that's not politically correct. I guess we're not supposed to use that term anymore, but I really don't care. Anyways, businesses can return to normal water use. Stage 4 water restrictions are still in place. What that means is indoor swimming pools are open, but you still can't water your garden outside or your car or fill up your own kiddie pool at home. Finally, we are going to move into our weekly comment roundup. Okay, I've been talking for a long time, so I'm going to just do one or two of these. User @PaulJackson said, at this point, I don't think the UCP should bother with Nenshi. Just let him prattle on his Marxist nonsense and Alberta voters will reject him. The UCP should focus a little more inward and guard against attaching themselves to nonsense like high-speed rail, maintain, expand, and build new roads. Well said, Paul. And finally, user Zuanna Simpson said, OMG, Singh thinks he can defeat both the Liberals and the Conservatives. That's the funniest thing I heard today, lol. So true. I bet his party will be decimated in the next election. Okay, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. Friendly reminder that my midweek episode of the Alberta Roundup has been replaced with a new show, Rachel and the Republic, covering U.S. politics. You guys are not going to want to miss it. I dive deep into the issues of the day in the American election, which is, of course, one of the most important elections. And even if you're Canadian, it's still going to be important for your future. I would be surprised if you guys aren't. So you're going to want to tune into that on Wednesdays. I will see you guys all midweek with Rachel and the Republic. I hope that you have a great weekend. For those of you who are in Calgary celebrating the Stampede, enjoy. I will not be participating this year, but I'm sure I'll be back next year. I just wanted to take a break this year. All right, everyone, have a great weekend. God bless.